Welcome back to another YouTube video, guys. It's your boy Sam, and today's video, we're going to be continuing our Google Map API. And today's video, we're focusing on the distance API. And what we're going to do is what you're seeing right here. So we have an origin and a destination, and it's going to basically calculate the miles that it takes to go from our origin to our destination. And it's also going to calculate the time, the duration it's going to take to go from point A to point B. So let me just give you an example. I put Las Vegas here, and I also put New York here. And we click on the button right here, and you can see it shows us point A to point B. It says from Las Vegas, USA to New York, USA, driving distance, exactly. But I'll show you how you can change this driving distance to walking distance to bicycling or cycling distance. And yeah, that's the cool part of this tutorial is that you will be able to switch it to wherever you want it to be. And it also shows the duration. So it takes 1 day and 13 hours to drive from Las Vegas to New York. I bet you didn't know that. But yeah, we just created an app that actually told us that. Of course, we're using the Google API, the distance API for this project. And yeah, if you like this kind of tutorial and you're new to this channel, subscribe to the channel. I release content like this. I'm doing actually a series on all the map API from Google because I find it really cool. It's really interesting and there's so much cool stuff you can do with this. And if you actually choose like New York to Alicante, and we click on there, that's really impossible because you can't drive from New York to Alicante. So we also have an error message that is going to show up. And this error message is basically saying could not retrieve driving distance. So this is the two parts because if it's not possible, we want to have a message that's actually going to tell you that, hey, even though you should know, but it's going to tell you, hey, you cannot drive from New York to Spain. Yeah, subscribe to the channel, like the vid. I am really excited, so let's get to it. Yeah, so the first thing you need to do is you need to come to this place right here. And if you don't have an account, just create an account. You need to go to console.cloud.google.com. Now, when you have your Google Cloud platform and your page is as identical as mine is, so it's the same as my page, what you need to do next is you click right here and you create a new project. You give it a name. I'll just call it new project, but you should call it something better. New project 1, and then we click on create. And in this new project, the next thing we need to do is we need to first actually go into the new project. So we click on the new project. And now you'll see it right here. We're on our new project. We're not on an old project, we're on the new project. The next thing we need to do is we need to go to our library and we need to add some libraries into here. So the first library we're going to add is distance matrix. And I just want us to add everything because this is an ongoing tutorial. It's a series. I'm doing a whole series on Google APIs. So we will need all these libraries. So we enable it. We click enable. And in the dashboard, we go to this place right here, APIs and service. And we click on the library again because we want to add additional libraries. The next library we're going to add is direction. Direction API. We click on that and we enable this too. And we do the same thing again. We go to APIs and services, libraries, and we enable this too. Maps JavaScript API. And we need one more API. This is the last one, and this is places. So you write here places. Now you can see a places API. Click on that and we enabled it. And now when you click right here, you can see the API libraries that we enabled. We enabled direction API, we enabled distance matrix API, we enabled maps JavaScript API, and we also enabled Places API. When you've done this, the next thing is we need to create an API key. In our dashboard, we go to APIs and Services, and then we click on Credentials. And now you can see that in our credential, what we need to do next is we create credential. We click right here, and this is what we want to create. We want to create an API key. We click on Create API Key, and now our API key has been created. The next thing we do is we copy it right here. You can see this restricted key right here. We don't need to do that. Maybe later on when your app is fully finished and you want to restrict it to some website or some people, you could do that. But now we don't need to do that. So we just close. We copied our API, and make sure you have this API key and it's the correct one. So just copy it again to be sure. And that's it. Now we're going to do the HTML. And in the HTML, I'll show you where you're going to paste this API key because it's very important. Without this API key, nothing is going to work. And later on in the video, you might notice that your map has a watermark and it says only for developers. Mine is not going to have that because I already opened an account, a billing account with Google. If yours has that, all you need to do is open a billing account with Google. And if you put your particulars, don't worry, it's for free. They're not going to take any money from you. So when you open a billing account with Google, then that watermark will be gone and your map will look exactly like mine. I'm just telling you this because it might not be the same as mine and I want you to know why. Now let's get to the HTML section of this video. Now let's look at our folder. We can see this content right here. And what this content has is our bootstrap.mini.css. And as the name suggests, it's for the bootstrap because we are using bootstrap in this project. And the main reason we're using bootstrap is because I do not want to focus on styling. I just want to be able to have something that looks okay. So then we can go to the JavaScript and really understand what the JavaScript is all about. And then we have our app.js, index.html, and style.css. These are the files we use for this project. Now let's look at our head section of our HTML page. And in our HTML file, the head section, you can see here, we reference the content.bootstrap.mini. So we'll link our file to this file right here. And the second thing you can see here is that we have this font awesome. And why we have that is because we're going to use font awesome icons because I preferred it to using just normal buttons. They look better and yeah, it just makes everything easier too because don't really need to style a button. This link right here is for our Google fonts, and then after that we have our link to our CSS. So that's all that's in the head. And now let's get to the HTML body and just fill in the body tags we're going to use for this project. Yeah, so the first thing we're creating is a div, and this div is going to be given the class Jumbotron. And the Tron is with an O. And after that, we'll have another div with a class of container dash fluid. Save that. You can see the space right there. And now we'll have our h1 tag. And this h1 tag is just going to say find the distance between two places. Save that. Now we can see our h1. And after the h1, we will have a p tag. And this p tag is, you can say whatever you want it to say. I'm just trying to make this look a little bit nice. So I'll say this app will help you calculate your traveling distance. And if there's any spelling correction or spelling mistakes, yeah, you guys do it on your code. For this one, it really doesn't matter. Now we create a form, and this form doesn't need an action because, yeah, we don't just need an action for this form. And this form, we're going to give it a class name, and the class name is going to be form horizontal. And now inside our form, we'll have another div. We'll give it the name of form group, the class name of form group. And inside this form group, we'll have a label. And our label, what is this label for? It's for from. And you understand what I mean by from, because basically what from is going to be our origin. That's the starting point. So your distance, you have from here to there. So we'll have a from and we'll also have a to label. And inside here, we'll still have a class. We'll give it the call xs2. And these are just bootstrap control label. And I'm sure you're like, where is the label? Well, we need an icon for that because we're not using words. We're going to use icon. So you go to Font Awesome icons. hmm And the first icon we're having is a dot. Click on dot. I want this one here. You could also use that, depending on what you prefer. Yeah, just copy the icon. We just copy this right here. Click on it and it copies automatically. And yeah, we put it inside here. Save it. And now we can see our icon. It's white, but yeah, we can see it. The next thing we need to do is we need to create another div. And this div will give it a class of call xs4. And this is going to house our input. So the input type is going to be text, the ID, not ID, item ref, the ID. Wow, what's happening here? The ID is going to be from, that's the name of the ID. We'll give it a placeholder too, and that's going to be origin. Save it. Nope, not this. Save the page. Now we can see the origin. And then it's going to have it's going to have a class of form control. I can see the styling changed. That's what form control does. And now we're done with the input, and yep, what I'm just going to do is copy this because now I want to do two. Yeah, so we paste that here, save it, and we change the from to to, change the marker, and this is the marker we're going to use for the second part, for the second input. Put that in, save it, we can see it's changed. And yeah, the ID is going to be changed to 2, and also the placeholder is going to be destination, and yep, that's it. So that's it for the form. And the way we create the button is we'll create a div and we'll give it the class of call xs offset to. And I'm still gonna add another class of I'm still gonna add another class of call XS10. Inside this div we'll have a button, but you could put whatever you want. It really doesn't. Why we're using a button is because we want to be able to add a function inside. So an event. So a button is like the best when it comes to adding events, but that's why we're using that. But the main thing is that I want you guys to understand that really this is me just trying my best to just put something real easy, nothing too complicated, so we can go to the JavaScript. Yeah, I'll give it a class of button, button, info, button, LG. And now we need an icon for this. So we'll go to the font awesome. Okay, can click this. You can get this direction icon, copy it, put it inside, save it, ooh, save it. And now we get this. The next thing is we're going to create another container fluid. And this is just going to house our map. Then we'll create another div. We'll give it the ID of Google Map. And after that, we'll have our output. So create an ID of output, create a div with an ID of output. And yes, so this div right here is going to house the information from our origin to the destination. This div right here is going to be where we'll place our map. And yeah, that's it. And this is it for the HTML. Really nice and simple. Save it. You can see how it looks. Really basic, nothing too special, nothing too advanced. Just something we can have to actually show everything we want. Under the description, you will see this whole script tag link. And in this section where you see your key, I want you to highlight it like I'm doing right now. And then you paste your API key inside it. And that's all you need to do for that. Make sure you also connect your HTML to your JavaScript. I know it's a rookie mistake, but yeah, I just want to remind you. And now it's time for the CSS. The whole point of actually using Bootstrap is that I don't want to do too much on the CSS. So for the body, what we're going to do is just, for the body, we'll add a color. And we're using this code right here, this light bluish color. Save that. And also we'll add our font family, Poppins, and comma right here, then sans serif. Save it, we can see it's changed. The next thing we do is for the Jumbotron, wow. For the Jumbotron, oh, not you. I don't know why I'm calling Jumbotron with a U. We'll give it a background color of transparent, and you see what's gonna happen. Save it. You can see now it's white. It's no more that grayish color. I'll set the margin to 0. And then we add a padding of 10 pixels. Gonna copy this right here, paste it, and then put H1 in front of it. And you know what? I like the way the letters are spaced, but you could add some letter spacing. Change the font size to 2M and the font weight to bold. Now I'm gonna copy this, paste, put a comma, copy this again because I really don't want to write Jumbotron again. Then the P, say text align, put in the center. You can see that there. And P again. For the P tag alone, we just set the font size to 1M. And all this, you can do it how you want it to be. Yeah, so now I'm going to leave this section, but we're going to come back to it because we need to style the map when we create it. But you know what? I want us to create the map first before we do some styling on the CSS. And the same for the output. When we create the output, then we'll come back to the CSS and actually do the styling for it so we can see it. Because if I just did the styling right now, we wouldn't see anything because it's not there yet. We have to make it into JavaScript. So now we're done with the CSS for now. And let's go to the HTML. app.js. So now let's get to the app.js or the JavaScript. Yep. So now we're at the JavaScript. And the first thing we're going to do, and you know it's very important, is add your comments. So we set the map options. And the first thing we're going to create is we're going to create a variable with our latitude and longitude. So I'm just say var my lat long, and that's short for latitude and longitude. Make that equal to curly bracket a dictionary with key value pairs. And the key is going to be lat, and the value is going to be longitude. And this is basically where the map is going to start at because the world is big. They can't just hold the whole world on one screen, basically, if that makes sense. But what I'm trying to say is that right now we're setting where the map is going to show up first on. I'm setting it to Spain because I live in Spain. You can set it to wherever you live it. Yeah, so you can set it to wherever you live. And if you want to set it, you just go to Google and you type wherever location. You can type Spain's latitude and longitude. You could type your state's latitude and longitude. And when the map shows up, it's going to start at that location. So that's what we're doing right here. I would say 3460 for the latitude. And the LNG longitude is negative 0.4907. And then create another variable and we'll call this map options. And what this map option is going to be is we want to tell the map where it's going to be, how it's going to be. So we want it to be centered around this our latitude and longitude. And we also want it to have a zoom. And also we're telling it the type of map. And that is for later, but we're going to put it on the roadmap. And you see what I mean? We create a curly bracket again. Then we say center. Then we say my lat and long, comma. Then we put zoom, setting the zoom to 7. You can set it to whatever you want, 12, 1. Just play with it. That's the way you understand it, Mel. Now we need to actually tell Google what type of map we want. So we want a road map. And the way we do that is we create a variable, we call it map type ID. We set that to Google dot maps dot map ID with a capital M. Make sure it's a capital M. Dot road roadmap. Not roadman, roadmap. Just joking. Save that, but we can't see the map. Why is that? Because we need to tell Google now where to create the map. So we create the map, use a var map is equal to new google dot maps dot map with a capital. Now we say document dot get element by ID. And what element are we getting by ID is the div that we created that we wanted to put our map in. Let me just show you real quick. It's this right here, this Google map. And after that, we want it to have map options. So we want it to have everything we put here. That means it should be centered on this latitude and longitude. It should have a zoom and it should be this type of map. So we save it now. We're not still seeing anything. That's because we need to go to the CSS. So now we'll go to the CSS, say hash Google map. We're using the hash because it's an ID, not a class. And we give it a width, say 80%. Save it. Wow, where's our map? Now I'm going to give it a height of 400 pixels. Save it and voila, our map is showing up because we gave it a width and a height. But you know what? I'm going to add something else. I want to give it a margin of 20 pixels auto. So it should be centered. Exactly. And now I'm just going to enlarge this so we can see then this is our map. You see it's centered on this latitude and longitude. You can see Spain right here. And yep. Now what we're going to do is put another comment right here. We're going to create a direct a directions service object to use the root method and get a result for our request. It's a long ass comment, but just to make it understandable, because that's important. So we say var direction direction service, so equal to new google dot map. Why is there space here? Is equal to new google dot maps dot direction with a capital D, because this is a function direction service. And we also put a semicolon. Now another comment, we're going to create a directions render. What is happening right now? Need to create a directions renderer object which we will use to display the root. And basically the same thing, but this is for render. We say directions renderer I know I would say directions display. This is a variable. You could call it whatever you want, but I just feel display sounds better and makes more sense because it's for the display. I would say new Google dot maps dot directions render or directions renderer semicolon. Now we're gonna bind the directions. What is happening here? It's like I create a comment and the next thing I'm on another line. We're going to bind the directions render to the map. And we just say directions display dot set map capital M, and inside we put map. You know what? I'm changing this direction to a small d because we're using camel notation here. Now we need to create a function. This function is basically going to calculate the distance. It's also going to be able to display everything we want it to display. That is the where we're coming from, where we're going to, and also the distance and the time it's going to take. So I'm just gonna put function right here as a comment. So say function calc routes, and inside we'll say create our request. So we say var request is equal to curly bracket origin documents dot get element by ID. I remember the ID we made for from, but want the value of that ID. So say dot value. Whenever you want the value of something, you have to put dot value. I would say destination. Destination. Say document. Wow, I really don't know what's happening to VS Code today. Seriously. It's like I'm popping out of different sections. Document dot. Maybe they have a bug or something because this is weird. Documents dot get element by ID to dot value. And put a comma after value. Now we're basically grabbing our inputs. This is what we're doing right here. Now we want to tell it the travel mode because there's going to be a part two for this where we'll be able to choose in our inputs what type of route or what type of direction or travel mode we want. But just for this video, we're going to choose the driving traveling mode. There's also cycling, there's transit, and I think there's also walking. So yeah, those are the different types of traveling mode. So we say travel mode and say Google the maps dot travel with a capital T travel mode dot driving And I'll put a comment here that will just tell you could also change this to walking or not cycling, bicycling. Because if you put cycling, it won't know what cycling is. And transit. Now we need to set a unit system. With a capital unit system. Google dot maps dot unit with a capital U system dot im with all capital imperial. Yep, and that's it for the request. Now just put another comment. Pass the request to the root method. So that's what we're going to do here. So we'll say direction service dot root, say request, and we can use our arrow function right here. Say result status and say if status is equal to Google dot maps dot direction status, not spelled correctly, status. I have to make sure you spell all this right because these are Google, this is the Google API's actual functions that we're calling right here, or methods that we're calling right here. Status is equal to google.maps.direction status.ok. Curly bracket. And here we just say get distance and time. Oh my gosh, what is happening to this? Seriously, I've never seen. I really think there's a bug in VS Code today. They better fix this. Get distance and time. So say constant output is equal to document dot query selector. Oh my, this is my bad, not query selector. This is not VS Code this time. And yeah, output. And this is just us. I told you that just like you saw earlier, the time and also the amount of the distance. So the time and the distance are going to show up in this div right here, which is output. And remember, we created it right here, output, empty. So we're going to put the things that the output should have. Now we say output dot inner HTML is equal to, I know what, I'm just gonna make this big screen because right now I just want you to see it better. And we're not doing anything on the map web page right now. This is more backend stuff. So say div, and give it a class is equal to alert dash info. And now we'll say from another comma plus. So we just close that. Document dot get element by ID from. So that's the value right here. So this is the text that's going to show up plus space and then a comma, just one, or a quote, not comma, quote, plus document dot okay. So after the quote right here, just one, say dot. So that's a full stop. And now put a line break, BR, two, another comma, or not comma, quote. Say document dot get element by ID. Sorry for the barking noise if you're hearing that. I really don't know what's up with our neighbor's dogs. Maybe they saw a ghost or something. Now we just say 2. That is the ID we want to take. Dot value. Because basically going to show the input, whatever we put in the input, this output is going to show the name of the place that we put on the input. So it would say from Las Vegas to New York. And that's because we put on our origin Las Vegas and on our destination we put New York. Say dot then another BR we'll put we'll put here driving distance. And here right now, let's go to our font. Awesome. For the icon, we'll put map. And yeah, this road right here. Since it's by road, it's driving. We're going to add this icon there. Copy it. and come back here. And now we paste it inside. But what we'll need to do is we'll need to change these double quotes to single quotes. And why is that? Is because we already have double quotes outside. So if we don't change them to single quotes, it, JavaScript's not going to know when it's not going to know when this is closed or open, because we always have an opening quote and a closing quote. Then we'll put a colon after that and say plus result. So that's the result of our root, and it's roots results dot roots 0 square bracket 0 dot legs square bracket 0 dot distance. Dot text, because we want it in a text form. Let's say plus quotes again. We say dot br duration, and we need to go to font awesome again. I'm just gonna add an hourglass, and all this is if you want it. I just felt it looked better with them. I think I put time, or is it a clock, or yep. So you can choose whatever hourglass you want. You know what? Let's choose this. Or we could have whatever. Yeah, hourglass. Copy and paste it. Change them to single quotes instead of double quotes. And now say plus result dot, and we just copy this right here. Well, if it's this is another problem I have with VS Code sometimes when you want to do this. Yeah, copy, and then we just put it right here. Dot roots dot legs, but instead of distance, we'll have duration, because now we're dealing with time dot text. And now plus double quotes dot. Now we need to close the div and put a quote after that. So hopefully everything is right there. If it's not, we'll have to come back to it. But yeah, it should be. The next thing is we need to display the route or routes. I hope I'm not pronouncing it. It's either route or route, one of them. But I hope you understand what I mean. Directions, display, dot set direction, set directions, and then we put inside result. After that, we'll put an else. Now, we want to delete the routes or routes from map. So we say directions dot display and not directions display dot set directions, and then inside that we put a curly bracket. Let's say routes, not routes, routes, square bracket, and yep. And after that, we want the map to be centered again. So center map in Spain. So say map dot set. So we center map in Spain. So we center map in Spain, and we do that by saying map dot set center. Wow, what did I write here? Center my lat and long. So we set it to that coordinate. And also want an error to show, because imagine someone wants to check how far it is to travel by road from America to Europe. Well, it's not possible because it's not possible to travel by road from America to Europe because of the sea. So if someone does that, I want there to be an error message to show that, okay, it can't retrieve this data, or could not could not get the drivings, or just a message to actually say that, okay, this whatever you're asking for, I can't do that for you. So that's what we're going to try and do here. Now we'll just say show show error message. Now say output, and it's going to be on the outputs too. The inner HTML is equal to, let's say div. We'll give it a class of alert danger. We'll close the div. And now for the alert danger, there's a nice font awesome icon we can use too. Just go here and we look for error. Yes, that's it here. Oh no, I prefer the other one actually, the triangle. So we use a triangle error. Paste it there, the usual thing. Change it from double quotes to single quotes. Now we actually put the message we want. Say could not retrieve driving's distance. And after that, a period, and we close the div with our semicolon too. I'll put a semicolon right there, and yep, that's it. So right now it should work. We will set an autocomplete so you can actually get help, but right now it should work. But why the autocomplete is important is because I don't want you writing just to help with the spelling, and also sometimes not knowing exactly how a destination is spelled well. It's good to have autocomplete so it actually shows you different options, and then you can choose the destination or the origin you want to put in the input. So that's what we're going to do right here real quick. So we'll create autocomplete objects for all inputs. Now we say var options is equal to, say, types, square bracket, single, and then we just put cities. And that's it for that. Now we say var input 1 is equal to document dot get element by ID. Now what element are we getting is the from, not form, from. Don't make that mistake. Now we say var auto complete 1 is equal to new Google dot maps dot places dot auto with a capital complete. And as its input, we'll put input 1 and options. And now we'll just copy this. It's quite identical, and we do it for inputs 2. So change this to input 2. Instead of from, we'll put 2. Autocomplete will be 2. Here will be inputs 2, and it's going to be the same options. So yep. So I'm just going to check the code. I'm just going to check the code real quick to make sure we don't make any mistake. And yep, right here, this is a mistake. This should be a capital OK. So capital O and a capital K. Now we save it, and that should be it. Let's go to our web page, go right here. Now we put an origin of Las Vegas, and after that we'll put a destination of New York. You see the autocomplete, click right here. Now we can see the map. It shows us from point A, which is Las Vegas, to point B. And now you can see right here, Las Vegas, NV, USA. That's from to New York, NY, USA. You can see the distance, driving distance with this icon right here. And then we have it in miles. And then we have duration with this hourglass, 1 day, 13 hours. So we can see that that's working out well. We could style this and just put this in the center. So let's do that. And we just say, we'll call the output, not capital, output small letters. And we give it a text, a line of center. And we'll just give it a font size of 2M and a margin of 20 pixels auto. Now we can see the message right here. It's way more bigger. We could leave it at the size, but just for you to see it, you can at the end change everything and all that. And we can see the map. It shows the route by car. And you can zoom in and you see right here, it's really showing you the route by car to go from New York or to go from Las Vegas to New York. This is the route by car. Now, what I just want to show you is that I want us to change the driving to walking, and we'll see all these values also change with it. So right here, just copy this, and instead of driving, I'm going to put walking here. Save it. Now we say New York to Las Vegas, and you can see the autocomplete. This is why it's so useful. You don't have to click everything. And now we can see that walking from New York to Las Vegas, we should change this to walking distance instead of driving distance, but I hope you understand. It's 2,552 miles, and the duration is 34 days, 23 hours to walk from Las Vegas to New York. So to walk from Las Vegas to New York is 34 days and 24 hours. So anyone who wants to try that out, yeah, here you go. At least you know you can make it in approximately, just add some more days, maybe 40 days. That's crazy. But yeah, so this is a part one. We will be doing a part two where would actually I will add another input where you can choose what kind of method you want to use, if it's driving or if it's walking or if it's transit. So that's what we're gonna add in the part two. But for this, I think this is okay for this video. Try it out yourself. Hopefully it works out for you. Play with the code. You can add some stuff, remove some stuff. New York. I know what, let's try somewhere else. Say Alicante, Benidorm. And you can see it shows us from Alicante to Benidorm, driving distance, duration, 34 minutes. And yeah, if you got to this part and you enjoyed this video, like the video. I release content every time. If you like content like this, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, if you didn't like it, you can also dislike the video. That's cool. And yeah, that's it from me. I'm gonna wrap things up and keep things moving. Watch out for the part two of this video and see you in another YouTube video.